This is Austin Real Estate Investing.
Austin Real Estate Investing.
We'll be discussing real estate investing in Austin, Texas, and bringing you experts from all different sectors of the real estate game. Your host, Jordan Moorhead, is a real estate agent and investor in Austin and is here to help you get started or to build your portfolio and explore new strategies.
Hi, this is Jordan Moorhead. This is Austin Real Estate Investing, and today I have Victor Nino here. Victor, can you tell us a little bit more about who you are and how you're involved with real estate investing?
Well, my name's Victor Nino. I am a realtor with Keller Williams here in the Austin metro area, and I started my journey as an investor in real estate when I was 19. So a month before my 20th birthday, I bought a home because I was guided by my older brother that had already been in the real estate business for about 10 years as a realtor. So he's the one that kind of pointed me in the right direction, started telling me about passive income and all that jazz. And it opened up a new world to me when it came to finance and money.
That's awesome. So your brother started as a realtor before you and kind of introduced you to, real estate investing. But you've done quite a bit with real estate, both on the realtor side, and I know we're going to talk about your investing side too. So tell everybody a little bit about what your day-to-day job is. So what do you do every day and what goes on there? Because I know you work with a bunch of awesome people that we've actually interviewed here on the podcast.
Exactly. Well, day in and day out, my whole goal is to help clients buy and sell real estate. So there's two fronts to that. Typically, it's either the investment side or more so a person that will buy and move up to a home or sometimes downsize. But my day-to-day is my job as a real estate agent and running a team as well in the Northwest Market Center for Keller Williams.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know you've got some pretty cool team members there. We've had Diego and Andres on here and, both talked a lot about house hacking and, clearly that's how you got started at the ripe young age of 19. So, could you tell us a little bit more about that? I really want to talk about that because not many people start at 19. I thought about it at 19, but I didn't start till I was 27. So it's really impressive that you started at 19. Just jump right in.
Well, I'll tell you this. I mean, like every 19-year-old that I knew, what I wanted was to get a cool car. Because I was like, hey, you know what? If I get a cool car, then maybe more girls want to talk to me. Yep. And I remember I went to test drive a vehicle. It was a white Ford Mustang, brand new. And I remember I went for a test drive and then I took it to my brother's house and I showed it to him and he's all like, oh, wow, that's a really nice car. So when he greeted me, he's all like, hey, come over to my office. I'm going to go ahead and show you something. So he pulls up on the internet how much a Mustang that's 5 years old was worth. He says, so how much are you going to pay for this? And I'm like, about $20,000. And then he's like, so how much do you think it'll be worth in 5 years? I was like, I don't care because I'm going to have a new car. And he's like, well, come on over. I want to show you this. And I remember seeing that it would be worth maybe like $7,000, $6,000. Best case scenario, maybe $8,000 if I took real good care of it. And then he asked me, how much are you going to pay per month? And then he said, the key question, how much is your insurance? And I was like, oh, wait, I need insurance. That's right. So when I called, it was going to be more than what I was making per month with my car payment and my insurance. And I was going to give like $5,000 down. So then he started telling me, hey, you know what? You can go ahead and use that money, buy a property, live for free. And then the money you're paying right now in your apartment, you can use that to buy your car and you can have two things for one. And I was like, whoa, I had never thought of something like that. So it wasn't like I wanted to do it. It wasn't like I knew better than most of my friends. It was more so my brother guiding me to make that decision. And frankly, I mean, I still have that property. I ended up buying it for $80,000 right next to the domain.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So you know how much homes are worth there. It's still rented out every single time somebody leaves, like a matter of 2 weeks tops. it'll be rented again.
Absolutely. So was that a 3-bed home?
Yeah, 3 bedroom, 1.5 bath.
Oh,
So before I bought that home, I was renting an apartment with one of my friends.
mhm.
Rent was $500. We had a 1 bedroom. He would sleep in the living room in a futon for 3 months, and then we would rotate. He would go to the bedroom, I would go to the futon. So that's how we were doing it, right? And we're paying $250 each. So long story short, I asked him, I'm like, hey man, I'm thinking about buying a house. You would have your own room. Would you be willing to be my roommate? And that's how it started. So then I said, hey, right now we're paying $250, but we're sharing a bedroom. We can go to a home and it'll be $300, but you're going to have your own room. And he loved that. So he's like, all right, let's do it. So then I ended up, my payment was $670.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, $670 a month, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. I got 2 roommates and I ended up living for $70 a month out of my pocket. And then since I was 20 years old by that point, I had a lot of friends that wanted to move into Austin from my hometown, which I'm from a small border town in South Texas called Eagle Pass, Texas. And so they would be like, hey, man, I'm thinking about moving to Austin. What, can you hook me up with a place to stay while I get on my feet? And I'm like, sure. So then I ended up getting a couple other friends and they started sharing rooms. And I was earning $1,000 a month and I was in the master bedroom and I was living for free. So that was pretty cool.
And everybody else was winning too. Even a while ago, $300 for a room was dirt cheap.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Think about it. It was 1998.
Oh wow, yeah.
That's a little bit ago.
Yeah, but still, that's nothing, especially for that location here in Austin. Clearly it wasn't the same that it is now, but it's still an awesome location in Austin, no matter when it was.
Oh yeah, definitely. So that's when I discovered, I was like, wow, this is super cool. So what I ended up doing, I started saving again because I wanted my car. And then I ended up finding, or my brother ended up finding a duplex. And he's all like, hey, buddy, I didn't know he was lead generating. I just thought he wanted to help me.
Yeah.
He was a realtor, right? So yeah, he's like, hey, there's this duplex. It's off of Palmer, again, right next to the domain.
Mhm.
$158,000, 3-bed, 2-bath on each side with a full car garage.
Wow.
So I ended up buying that instead of buying my car. And I'll tell you, I never bought a nice car till I turned 30 years old.
There you go. Well, you said, hey, your brother's lead generating, but he helped you out so much by trying to sell you houses. So yeah, he was making the commission. And I've actually had this conversation with a few people. They're like, well, you really just want to make that commission, don't you? I'm like, if I was on the other end and you said, hey, would you rather have this house or this commission? Take that house any day. I'd rather have the house.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I think that unfortunately, sometimes people focus too much on, wait a minute, why do they want to help me? Like you have something up your sleeve. And the sad thing is that, we come across a lot of great opportunities,
Mm-hmm.
but unless we're extremely wealthy, we can't buy them all. It's just, it's not possible. So we get to share that information with whoever's in our sphere, hoping that at least someone we know will benefit from those great opportunities. And that's really what my brother did. And, now I look back and I'm like, wow, I got so lucky that my brother was in that position and that had that mindset, because you and I both know that most realtors don't even invest in real estate.
Yeah.
Right? Isn't that insane? And a large portion of the realtors have never even bought a home before.
Yeah.
So the way I see it is like, well, how are you going to guide someone if you've never done it yourself? Now, can it be done? Of course. Have I met great agents that don't own a home? Yes. But there's that little difference that when you've been through it, you can relate to people. And therefore make them feel a little bit more comfortable, especially when they're getting antsy about the decision that they're making, or buyer's remorse, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, absolutely. Or dealing with the loan officer asking for everything you've ever thought that you were never going to have to tell anybody. So yeah, there's just lots of things. I think I personally think it should be a requirement that if you're a realtor, you should own a home, but there's no way to make that requirement there. So it can't be a requirement, but I would say if you're out there looking for homes, make sure your realtor at least owns a home. And then if you're out there looking for investment properties, so make sure your realtor has done some sort of investing. So you've been doing the house hacking thing since you were 19 years old, which is
Yes,
just
sir.
amazing. And you bought into areas of Austin that are worth I don't 3 4 times what you paid for those houses,
Oh
probably
yeah.
more for the 80,000.
Oh yeah, definitely. And the thing is this, that like you were saying right now, if you're going to be working with someone, make sure that they have at least done it themselves, because then they can lead you the right path. If not, it's kind of like you're learning as they're learning as well. But when it comes to real estate investing, I mean, my God, here in Austin, we've had appreciation that's been insane. Another thing I started doing, more so on the real estate front as a realtor, is I started doing like market studies of, year over year, how home prices have increased and so forth. And we've seen something pretty dramatic. I'm not sure if you saw the numbers, 18%,
Yeah.
19.8% in Travis County year over year as far as appreciation. Bastrop's only 6% year over year from December to December. But guess what? This year, I think it's going to go up a lot more, because there's people trying to buy in Travis, Williamson, and Hayes that can't really get in there at a good price for it to make sense for us to invest. So therefore, I think Bastrop's the next frontier.
Yeah, I was actually looking to buy houses in Bastrop in March or April, just as rental properties. And I wish I would have not been so picky and pulled the trigger on a few of them, because those prices are 10-15% up now.
Oh, yeah.
It's just insane. When I first saw those numbers for November from, Travis County and Austin area, I had to triple check. I said, there's no way that can be true. And I went and verified, and, it is true that it gone up more than 19% in a year in Travis County, and just amazing. But
yeah. And to put it into perspective, I mean, what would you say would be average in a healthy market where you say, hey, you know what? It's not super hot, but it's a healthy appreciation. I mean, I've seen it's typically 3, maybe 5%. And you're like, hey, I'm doing real well. But, 18% plus.
Yeah.
Pretty incredible stuff.
Yeah. It's just insane. Everything that's happened this year, if you would have told me in March that any of this stuff was going to happen, and we're in 2020 for anybody listening to this later, if you would have said in March, this is what's going to happen in Austin this year, I would have said you're crazy. There's something's wrong with you. There's no way this is going to happen. And
oh yeah, and I'll tell you, one of the things that I've noticed, and I'm sure you've probably noticed it also with your sphere and people and so forth, people that are lucid and quick on their feet are the ones that are going to continue to win. I know that when the lockdown started in March of 2020, I had a conversation with my wife. We live in a beautiful home now. And we had just moved like 4 months before. And this is, we're living in a home where, frankly, we never thought we could live in a place like this. I mean, when I was a kid, when I was born, we lived in government housing. I lived in government housing till I was 5 years old. And my parents bought a little house that was all jacked up, but it had 2 units. They rented out one, and then they ended up building a 4-plex in the back. And it's like, these decisions were made by a man that went to 3rd grade in Mexico. Very little English. Yeah. My mom, 6th grade. It was more so my father making those decisions, but then I didn't know what it really meant. And then my brother, obviously 10 years older than me, he saw that. And that's why I'm thinking he was also intrigued in wanting to invest in real estate. So when it comes to this, you don't have to be smart. That's the thing. Like, you don't have to look smart, and you don't have to be a straight A student to be able to take advantage of these opportunities. And, just when you learn about leverage, it's just like mind-boggling to see how very few people actually take advantage of this.
Yeah, like you said, you do not have to have any sort of MBA. I saw somebody ask a question on an internet forum recently. Hey, will an MBA help me with real estate investing? I don't know. I have a GED, So I'm not the right person to ask with that. But the general consensus was no, you can learn everything you need to know from other people. And the concepts are really simple. Use leverage, buy real estate that makes sense, and hold on to it for a long time.
Oh, of course. And, kind of going back to my point here about, being quick on our feet and so forth. I remember telling my wife, I'm like, hey, you know what? The lockdowns are starting. We can't show homes. I know that we were kind of in limbo for a couple of weeks. Like, hey, is it against the law? Oh, is it against the rules? Oh, am I going to lose my license if I go and show? Like, there were so many things up in the air that we didn't know what to expect. And I had a conversation with my wife, and I'm like, look, I know this is our dream home. I know that we never thought we would live here, and we're super happy that we are. But I'm going to tell you right now, we are not our things. If we need to sell everything, or not everything, but this home in particular to cut down on expenses, then we're going to go ahead and do that. Because I'm not going to wait 2-3 years or even a whole year of possibly not earning an income as a realtor, and then later saying, oh, okay, well, now I'm going to make a change. So it's like, we need to make sure that we make quick decisions and not be too attached to money. I think the interesting thing is, like, the common conversation amongst friends and stuff is like, oh, money's not important. But most people live like this, like with their money. They don't want to invest it because they're afraid to lose it. And I'm like, well, you say that money's not important. Why are you so married to that money where you can't just even let it go? And the way I see it is like, you know what? Money comes and goes, but money that you invest, it's like planting a little seed. And you keep planting and planting, and now you start having all these trees that give up fruit. And it's like, if you never invest that money because you just have your fist clenched, you're never going to grow at the same level. And that's the thing that I hope that whoever's listening to this, that they understand that, you know what, money's money, and money is worthless unless you use it. And being in the bank is not doing anything. I heard this the other day and I thought it was super cool. He says, the bank account is where your money goes to die. That's the cemetery.
Oh, yeah. Especially with inflation, too. So you put money in a bank and you're saving it, but it's losing value. If you put it into real property like real estate, it's increasing in value.
Exactly. Yes, definitely. And, obviously, if you're getting a passive income from it, then even better, because then it allows you to live the lifestyle you want in order for you to not have to work as hard to have the lifestyle you want to have. And it's like, you get to travel, you get to do all kinds of stuff that maybe you wouldn't be able to do at the same level if you were just depending on your income from the day-to-day activities that you do in your business. Whether you're an employee or you work in any kind of business, you're still trading time for money. The beautiful thing about real estate is that, guess what? You don't even have to trade your time for money anymore. Sure, you got to check in on stuff and so forth, but it's not the same amount of hours as an investor.
Couple hours a month for most things you can do as an investor is all you need to put in. And you can do it from you have a lot of flexibility with that too. So,
of course,
you talked about being quick on your feet. And that's one of the things that I see that makes the difference between a successful and somebody that never does anything as an investor, is just having good decision-making power. So it's pretty easy to analyze property. It takes a few minutes. And if you can make a decision quickly after you've analyzed that property, you can be successful. Where if you sit around and have to think, I see those people drag their feet and just never get anywhere compared to the people that say, hey, this works, let's go.
I'll tell you one of the common traits I see from the more successful people that I know versus the ones that don't have that economic success at that same level is being able to make quick decisions. You make quick decisions, and hey, you know what? You're not going to win them all. And don't beat yourself up because you made a bad choice. It's kind of like, hey, you know what? I learned. What do I make sure I don't do again? And I learned when something worked out well. So therefore, let me repeat that. And it's just adjusting your course as you're going. And again, not being so married with that money that you can't allow for it to grow. And it's like, hey, go out there in the world and duplicate yourself. versus, oh, I can't let you go anywhere because I'm afraid I'm going to lose you.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point too. If you hold on to it, you're essentially losing it because it's decreasing in value every
Oh,
year.
of course.
So it's not like you really saved it by holding on to it. You're just losing it a little slower than if you lost it all at once.
Oh, yeah. And see, another thing I think that's really important is paying attention who is feeding your mind, paying attention what information you are listening to. I remember back in 2008, 9, my brother read a book called Aftershock. And it was, talking about doom and gloom. The whole economy is going to collapse. So I made the mortal mistake of selling a couple of properties. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with Jim Rohn, but he's all like, stand guard at the gates of your mind. What information are you allowing your mind to get, whether visually or stuff that you're listening to? And that has been like one of the things that I'm like, wow, like I have to be very careful who I listen to in order for me to make good sound decisions. And the thing is this, the market is crashing videos are everywhere. Oh, 2021, the market's going to crash. But the thing is this, in real estate, if it does crash, you're not going to wake up one day and say, okay, you know what, tonight I'm going to bed. My home is worth 350. And then tomorrow I wake up and now it's worth half. This is not the stock market. That is not going to happen. So what a prudent person should do is pay very close attention to what's happening locally. Mm-hmm. If someone's a homeowner, pay attention. Hey, if you have a realtor friend, tell them, put me on a drip email and I want to know everything that happens in my subdivision. Send me an email a month or an email a week so that way I know what homes are coming up, what homes are going pending, and what homes are closing. Why? Because then you'll start noticing trends. And the sad thing is most people get distracted with life that they don't pay attention to their finances at the level that they should. And then therefore they wonder, why are we paycheck to paycheck, or why can't we pay for the kids' college, or why can't we go on vacation? Why? Because you're roaming through life. And if you don't do things intentionally, then how are you going to grow? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I love the Jim Rohn books too. I was actually listening to one this morning. So I guess, can we talk a little bit more about the local market? So a lot of the people on here are not in Austin, and you and I, being active in the Austin real estate market, get some more insight than other people. Like you said, it's the appreciation over the last year has been just insane. But over the last several decades, it's been really good here. And I think it's easy for people to forget that it's not just 2020. I talk to people, oh, it's 2020. I see all these companies are moving to Austin. Austin's just taken off. Austin's been taken off for quite a long time. And you know that. Clearly, you've been buying houses over by the Domain since the late 90s. Could you share a little bit more of your perspective of, let's say, what's happened with Austin in the last 20 years and what's going on now?
Well, I'll tell you, I started selling real estate 16 years ago. And what I recall is most of my clients were buying homes under 100,000. And now it's like, you can't, what are you going to buy for 100,000? A car, like that, you can't find it. And so what I've noticed, kind of like you said, people outside of the Austin area and some people in Austin, just because they have not paid attention, they think that Austin has just recently taken off, but it's been gradually growing. The way I see it, it's kind of like an old Cadillac, where it's like, hey, when it takes off, it's super slow. And now it's like hit its speed, but it's going faster and faster. So people, all they see is like, whoa, it's moving so fast, but they haven't noticed that it's been strong for a long time. Mm-hmm. So I'll tell you, I did several videos about the real estate market in Austin for the last 20 years. And I have them on my YouTube channel, and it's pretty interesting. Like I remember in Del Valley, which is right next to Tesla. And the reason I point out Del Valley is because everybody's like in love with Del Valley now, I remember back in 2000, average home prices were about 105,000. Well, fast forward to when we had a dip back in 09 and 2010, well, there were homes about 80, 90,000. So imagine buying a home in the year 2000, waiting 9 years, and now your home's valued lower than what you paid for it. That's actually what happened. And now average prices are about $250,000. So think about that journey in 20 years. But most people will say, oh, well, it'll take another 20 years for it to double. No, it's not. It's actually been put on hyper growth per se ever since July 22nd, when Elon Musk said, hey, I'm building and this is where I'm building in Austin. And ever since then, there was a huge growth. I did some research, 5 mile radius from Tesla, home values went up 16% in 12 months. So going back to 20 years, things that I used to hear is, oh, well, it's 100,000, it's super expensive.
Hey guys, this is Jordan Moorhead here, and I wanted to ask if you could do a huge favor for me. If you could go leave a review for this podcast wherever you're listening to it, that would really help me get this into the hands of other people that are interested in information about Austin real estate investing, and I'd be able to help more people. Thanks, guys.
Right now, what do people say? Oh, I should have bought 5 years ago. It's too expensive. Yeah. And I'm like, well, too expensive compared to what? And the question you have to ask yourself, Jordan, is, do you want to ride the wave from now until 2025? Or do you want to stay in the sidelines and just watch other people ride that wave? It's a decision you have to make. Absolutely. And see, that's the thing that for us, we need to make sure we guide people. So your question is like, okay, there's people from out of the area. What would you advise them, or what would you say to them? I would say find a good quality agent that you can trust. Mm-hmm. If you don't trust them, go find another person. Because the last thing I want for me is I'm guiding someone, I'm giving them the information, and then they don't believe me. I rather just say, hey, look, it seems that you are not comfortable or taking my advice as the gospel, because that's really what's happening. It might be best for you to find another agent. Because at the end of the day, we can give them all the information, and some people just get lost in their research. Research. Hey, Jordan, by the way, let's make an offer on that house. Ha! That house, the one 3 weeks ago, it already closed.
Yeah, right? Absolutely.
Yeah, and nowadays, what happens if you wait 2 or 3 days? It's gone.
Gone. Yeah, average time on market is around 3 days right now, from on the market to under contract. So you've got a couple days to jump on something. That's where being quick with your decisions is coming in right now. Here we're in January of 2021. You don't have a lot of time. If you see a house and it makes sense, just make an offer.
Yep, definitely. And another thing that I would say is, like, you know what? Most people expect to hit a grand slam to win the World Series on their first house.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, settle for a walk, settle for a hit, a bunt, just to get on first base. And that's another thing that keeps people from growing their portfolio or even getting their toes in the water when it comes to investing. Why? Because they expect that they're going to make $500, $600, $700 a month in passive income. Yeah. And I'm like, hey, if I find that one, you know what? And not only will I be interested, but we're going to have a sea of others that are interested because the price is so low. But guess what? Yeah. By the time all is said and done and we have a accepted offer, that price you see is going to be way higher. Mm-hmm. Why? Because there's so many people attracted to those deals that have a lot of meat on the bone. So it's like, yeah, at first glance, it may seem like, oh my God, they're going to get a great deal until you see that they closed $50,000, $60,000 over asking.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So Victor, clearly you've been in the Austin real estate market for quite a while. You've seen all different kinds of homes. You've owned a lot of homes. Could you tell us about one that was just a bad deal or something that went wrong in a real estate transaction that you'd like to caution some of our listeners not to do?
I would say when it comes to buying homes, always get an inspection done, even if it's a brand new house, because sometimes things are not the work that's being done by those subcontractors, sometimes it's not up to par. So always get an inspection, because I've had situations where I'll buy a home and, you come to find out during the inspection that, hey, you know what? The duct system is actually sending a lot of the cold air into the attic. And that could add a lot of cost on a monthly basis. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I guess more so my advice is not necessarily something horrible that's happened when it came to a deal or a home and so forth, but more so the preventive things that I've done to avoid having those situations. One thing I will say, I think this is really relevant and important, is the importance of knowing how to communicate with your tenants. Because I've had situations that could have gone real bad, that it was more so like damage control because the way we interact with people. So one thing we have to understand is, have empathy, understand others, but at the same time, be firm. Don't be their buddy, but at the same time, don't be like Scrooge McDuck, and it's like, hey, I'm going to go ahead and just like step all over you. So in this situation, when it comes to, having investments, it's also about how you're going to manage and navigate through the difficult situations. I mean, I've had people that ended up losing their job. Some people that ended up having terminal illnesses that they're like, hey, you know what? I can't pay my rent. Don't be so rigid that you can't be flexible with tenants that may end up getting upset because you can't get outside of your little box of what's fair. I've seen it so many times with people I know that it's like, oh, well, it's just the principle of the thing. Okay, well, your principle is going to cost you thousands of dollars. But yeah, you know what? If that makes you feel better, hey, go for it. It's your money. And I think that a lot of times people dig their own grave by just being hard-headed and closed-minded. And also, what ends up being very expensive is when they don't know how to communicate with tenants. Because you say the wrong thing, you're trying to deliver a certain message and it comes across in a rude way or whatever. That might be the difference between them moving out and having everything clean to saying, you know what, F you, I'm going to go ahead and do this to your house. So it's like we have to be very cautious of how we interact with our tenants. So I'd say I rarely hear that kind of dialogue in any of the investments, but I think that's something that a lot of times causes a lot of tension and a lot of problems for people that are renting homes. And also figuring out, hey, are you the handy type? Are you going to be doing the work, or are you going to be calling people? For me, I call people. I'm like, you know what? My time is more valuable than trying to save $500 or $300. Why? Because I could read a book. I can listen to a good podcast. I can go ahead and watch some awesome videos on YouTube to feed my mind so that I can continue to grow versus trying to save, $200 because I need to go replace a couple of blinds or a ceiling fan or whatever the case may be. That's my perception. Now, for some people, they are very hands-on and they enjoy that. Hey, awesome, go ahead and do it. But you need to know what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses. If you're hot-tempered and any little thing bothers you, hire a professional property manager. So that way you don't mess things up and create more problems for yourself. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's understanding ourselves. And I think, those things can help people avoid a lot of heartache when it comes to real estate.
Absolutely. Yeah, you make a lot of great points of, real estate investing is for everyone, but just figure out what you should and shouldn't be doing. So there's a way to invest for everybody out there. But, maybe for you, you need to hire a property manager. Maybe you need to do all the repairs yourself, and that makes you feel good. But, everybody's a little different. You just have to examine yourself and know yourself well and figure out what you're going to do best and what's going to give you energy.
Oh, of course.
Important. So, Victor, what's your best advice for people looking to invest in the Austin area? I know we've talked about how hot it is, they need to make a decision quickly. So what do you tell somebody that comes to you and says, hey, thinking about investing here?
Making them realize, people need to realize where they are in order to figure out where they're headed. So before I would just kind of like blanket start giving advice to people, but as a real estate agent, the thing that's helped me a lot is saying, okay, you know what, Jordan, let's talk about your scenario. Is this the first time you're investing? Have you been investing in a while? Have you been investing for a while? I'm sorry. Where do you invest? Give me examples of deals you were really happy with. And then from there, grab that information and say, okay, let me paint a picture of today's reality in Austin, right? But I think the most important thing here is understanding that you're not going to hit a grand slam. Those deals are few and far in between. And could you find it? Yes, but it's going to take a lot of effort and a lot of patience to be able to find that. And if you keep waiting for the right one, you're going to miss a lot of good ones. Maybe not incredible deals, but a lot of solid deals. And another thing is this, most people are like, hey, well, if I'm going to buy a house and I'm not going to even make a monthly profit, it's not worth it to me. Okay, well, you know what? If it's not worth it to you, then we might not find something. But one thing that I've noticed, I've bought numerous homes where whenever I would turn them into rentals, I was pretty much breaking even. Well, guess what? Nobody gets excited and say, hey, you know what? I'm doing a property management deal here for this property. I'm having to answer, when something breaks and so forth, sending somebody out there, having extra expenses. I'm not making a profit. It's not worth it. But guess what? Those homes have all doubled or tripled in price. So is it worth it? So think about this. Most people will go ahead and invest in a 401k. I cannot even think of one person that I know that says, hey, Victor, you know what? My 401k is at $300,000, $400,000. Not one single person, unless they put a lot of their own money in it. But I can't even count how many have been able to say, hey, Victor, you know what? You remember that house I bought? Now it's double. Hey, remember those 4 homes I bought? Each of them are double, and now I have over $1 million. I never hear that with 401ks. And the thing is this, I learned this a long time ago. Most people never pay attention to their 401ks, and they think they're investing. They're not investing, they're gambling. And the house always wins. And the thing is, the sad thing is that people are going to wake up and find out, oh my God, I only have 50 grand, 80 grand, 100 grand. And then if I take it out before I'm 65, I'm going to go ahead and lose a big chunk of it. Versus, let's put it in real estate. Let's grow it. And guess what? I'm going to avoid paying taxes because I can do a 1031 exchange and keep growing. It'll be like a little snowball that keeps growing. Growing. By the time you know it, hey, you know what? All your expenses are free. And I'll tell you, that's one of the things that's helped me a lot as a realtor, that I don't need to sell another house to be able to be okay. You have enough reserves. Your tenants are paying your mortgage. That's super awesome. You live for free. And that's what I tell my friends. Hey, I live for free. Do you want to learn how to do it? What do you mean live for free? And it's like, I'm pretty much like a kid that still lives with mom and dad that doesn't have a mortgage. But I live in my own house and other people pay for it. And they're happy to go every single day to work so they can pay to have a roof over their head. And in doing so, they pay for my home where I live, as well as all the other rental properties I have.
Yeah, no, I think you bring up a lot of great points. It's easy to forget about all of the benefits of real estate and just focus on cash flow. So that's a super hot word, has been for quite a few years. Everybody wants cash flow. Oh, I want to make this cash flow. And I always try to tell people, hey, what's a great deal for you? And somebody will say, well, I made $300 off of this single family house here. I'm like, yeah, that would be a great deal off a single family. Well, you made $300 off a single family house every month for a year. That's $3,600. Say you bought that same house last year in Austin, made $0 on it, and it appreciated roughly 20%. Which one did you make more money with? So I'm not at all saying only invest for appreciation or only invest for cash flow, but think about all the benefits, because you and I both know cash flow's at the very top here. Everybody wants cash flow, and it's cool if you can get some. I love cash flow too. Appreciation, you make a lot of money. Tax benefits are great. I'm sure you get lots of write-offs with the real estate you own, and that's awesome. There's also the loan pay down there. That's another huge benefit. All while not doing much work and having somebody else go out there and pay for your house. Somebody else is getting you cash flow, appreciation. tax benefits, and the loan pay down.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, to add to what you just said right now, before I got married, my wife actually moved from Corpus Christi, and I told her, hey, I already own a few homes. I'm not going to be able to buy as an owner occupant anytime soon. Mm-hmm. So you should buy a house. So I ended up convincing her to buy a house in Colorado Crossing right next to the airport, where there's no stores, there's no restaurants. It's pretty much not a very attractive part of town. But I said, invest here. Trust me. She wasn't too enthused. We ran the numbers because we were going to live there maybe a year, 2 years tops, mm-hmm. and turn it into a rental. When we ran the numbers, she was going to break even. Mm-hmm. Right now, she's making about $50 a month from that property. So nobody's going to get excited for $50. But guess what? She bought it at 206. A house just closed at 318. 3 years. How much is that return?
Yeah, absolutely.
$33,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's better than having $300 a month, like you said right now. Yeah. And the thing is, now we're like, okay, you know what? You're only making $50. Should we sell it and turn those $100,000 into do a 1031 exchange, buy another property? And guess what? Now we can go ahead and have more passive income.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we can make those decisions, or she can go ahead and keep it. She actually got about 11,000, I think, or 7, I don't know, somewhere around that, out of her 401k to buy that house. And I'm like, hey, how is your 401k, whatever you left in there, how's that doing? It's like, it's pretty much the same.
Yeah.
So think about that. And the thing is this, like, you know, she's a smart woman. She has, two college degrees, and she never even knew about this whole investing thing. She's all like, my God, I never thought this was possible. Nobody had ever talked to me about it. And I think the cool thing now is that, you know, we have access to the internet, and we can pull up videos from whoever we want to learn from. And the information is there. We just have to take action. And the sad thing is, most people want to just be entertained. Most people just want to watch the game. They want to watch the latest series because it's awesome. And I'm like, you know what? Cool. If that's your thing, go ahead and do it. But I remember when I was just roaming through life myself. I remember going to a job, getting home. I had my little routine. I get home at 5, grab a bite, and then at 6:30, 7, start watching my shows till 11. I cap up the night, you know, watching, you know, the Tonight Show or whatever the case may be. And then the next day start all over again. And I'm like, God, man, I can't believe I was just sleepwalking through life.
Yeah.
And it's like, the way I see it is like, you know what, man? Watching the game is like that's for someone that already reached their goals, or someone that has not a whole lot of goals. Now, I'm not saying don't watch a game or whatever, that it's bad, but just be careful how much money and how much time you invest in those, all the entertainment that's out there. And it's like, yeah, you want to enjoy things. If you love football, go ahead and watch a football game, but make sure that when you work, and when you play, and keep growing. And it's like, just don't roam through life, because by the time we know it, it's over. Or by the time we know, we wake up and it's 20 years later and you're like, oh my God, what did I do?
Yeah. Whereas if you would have bought a house a year for a few years, 20 years later, oh my gosh, I've got so much money.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And the thing is this, then people start saying, hey, Jordan, man, God, you're lucky. Yeah. You're so lucky you got that home back then. Well, I wasn't lucky. I was taking action.
Yep.
Right.
It might not be as comfortable as you'd like. So, you know, I'm sure you could have a lot earlier on moved into a nicer house and had a better standard of living, but you chose to take the road less traveled and just keep going because you had a goal.
Oh yeah. And I'll tell you, I mean, it was a big sacrifice. I remember I actually never lived alone. I had roommates all the way till I was 35 years old.
Yeah.
I wasn't looking to get married when I was younger and so forth. So I had roommates all throughout those years. So think about it, right before my 20th birthday. So basically from the age 20 to 35, 15 years with roommates. Well, guess what? My roommates paid travel. I mean, I've been to like over 50 countries. They've paid for my travel. They've paid for all these things for me to live for free and be able to enjoy something that I really love, which is traveling. Mm-hmm. And then at 35, I said, you know what? That's it. I'm 35. Like, you got to live on your own. I remember going downtown and I was renting a place downtown, and still my tenants were paying for my place downtown. I was living for free. And it's like, man, this is so cool. Ended up getting married. Same thing. My tenants keep paying my mortgage. For when my wife bought that home, I started paying the mortgage on it. Well, guess what? It was being paid by tenants. A year and a half later, I'm showing homes to a client, and one day he couldn't make it to a neighborhood. I call him. I'm like, hey, Cody, there's this house. It's really nice. He's like, nah, it's a little bit too far for me. And I'm like, all right, well, just want to let you know I'm going to buy it. This took less than 5 minutes, Jordan. I walked in there and I was like, my wife was with me. She's a realtor as well. We walked through it real quick and I'm like, hey, would you like to move over here? Do you think you'd like to live over here in Round Rock? We ended up buying right off of Lewis Hanna for $246,000.
Wow.
Lewis Hanna and A.W. Grimes.
Nice.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm helping somebody and we can't find anything under $275,000 in Pflugerville, Hutto, Round Rock, nowhere, unless you go to Gerald or you go to Elgin or you go to Bastrop.
Yeah, not long. Bastrop won't be that price either. So tell them to jump in now.
Oh, of course. And the thing is this, for me, I make sure that I make decisions quick. Like I said, in 5 minutes, I go up to the salesperson and I'm like, hey, you know what? Here's my earnest money. You see that house over there? I just saw it. I want to buy it. And the guy was like, really? Like, I haven't even talked to you about it. And then I was messing with the guy. His name's Randall. I'm like, hey, Randall, you know what? You're a great salesperson. You just got me to buy that house. Like, but I didn't say anything. So I'm like messing with, like, sometimes a good salesperson knows when not to say anything to get the sale done. And I ended up buying it like that. It was totally worth it. A year and a half after that, I ended up buying this house here. And, it's been rented out. I'm only making about $100 a month. But hey, now that house is worth about $325.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome. So buy and wait. Don't wait to buy is the big saying that you always hear. And I think there's never been a bad example of that in Austin for the past 25, 30 years. Yeah, at some point in time it went down, but think about where it is compared to 08 and now. So
true. And see, I think the other thing about this is, like, a lot of times people get so lost in all these social causes and so forth. And yeah, you know what? You got to stand for stuff. But the beauty about real estate doesn't care if you're a man or a woman. Real estate doesn't care if you have an accent or no accent. Real estate doesn't care what color you are or where you grew up or if you're connected or not connected. Everybody can do it. It's just a decision. And like you said before, hey, you know what? You got to make some sacrifices. In fact, I'll tell you this. I never bought a new car until like 4 months ago. Never have I ever bought a new car. Why? Because I know it doesn't make sense. I said, I'll buy a new car when I can pay it cash. And I don't care if it goes down because I just want to buy it.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you make sacrifices along the way, your future self is going to thank you.
Absolutely. And I think, your example, start as early as you can. Don't wait until you're in the right position. I talk to so many people that, I want to pay off these student loans, or I want to do this or that. And if you can get started now, just get started. Get started and wait, and then take care of that stuff later. If you can reduce your living expenses by doing what you did or what I did, do that and then take care of that other stuff you'd like to do. Go out and buy that new car. Of course, you waited a little while to do that, which is smart. But, if you want to buy a new car, buy a house first, then go buy a car. Don't buy a car first, handicap yourself from buying a house and have to wait to get your income up to be able to do that later down the road.
Oh yeah, and I'll tell you, like, even if you don't start super young, the thing is to start.
Yeah.
My older brother is the one that's a realtor. Then I have a middle brother, right? And he started investing like he was 33. Well, this dude now, he has a portfolio that's probably like almost $3 million.
Yeah.
And it's like, he was just intentional. When it was his time, he said, you know what? My little brother and my older brother are doing this. Let me do it too. And now, my God, he's sitting pretty. He ended up buying a house on 51st Street over by Mueller for $167,000, 5 bedrooms, 3 full baths.
Wow.
That house is almost $500,000 now.
I believe that.
Isn't that cool?
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Get started whenever you can. If you're just because you're not 19 doesn't mean you can't start now. My dad started real estate investing again in his 60s. And
wow.
He doesn't regret it. I know that. So get started whenever you're able. There's never a bad time to get started in real estate investing.
Yes, sir.
All right, Victor. So, clearly you've learned a lot over the years. You've got great examples from your older brother and your parents. What are some books you've read that you recommend to other people that are looking to get started in real estate investing?
The one everybody talks about, Rich Dad Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich. But you know what? I think that some of the books that people really don't talk about a whole lot is like Psycho-Cybernetics, The Power of the Subconscious Mind. And as I've been through my journey of learning and investing and so forth, I think that a lot of times people self-sabotage because in their mind, they can't see themselves as more as where they are or what they've seen in their surroundings. And that's why I think those books like Psycho-Cybernetics allows you to understand what picture and image you have of yourself. Because what we have in our world, what we experience, it's a projection of what's inside. So think about it. If I think I'm a gangster, how am I gonna dress? What am I gonna drive? How am I gonna interact with you? If in my mind and in my heart I'm a cowboy, what am I gonna dance to? Country music. What am I going to drive? A big old pickup truck, right? So what image do we have inside? And that's what we bring up to the world. And if what we are experiencing in our life is not what we truly want and desire, we have to start working from within so that we can change the outside. So I think that, yes, it's more so on the spiritual personal growth journey. And some people may be, well, what does that have to do with real estate? Well, it has a lot to do with it, because I think we all have an economic thermostat. And if we grew up in a home where people didn't really make a whole lot of money, our parents, etc., well, guess what? We're going to think that that is the lifestyle we need to have to, because that's all we are used to. And it's like I told you earlier, we grew up in government housing. When I was 5 years old, we ended up moving to a old, ugly, beat up home. My parents saved up. They ended up, my parents used to sell tacos on a roach coach, one of those taco trucks that now they're so cool. Well, back then they weren't cool, Yeah. So this was 30, 35 years ago. So they saved. They ended up buying a property. And I remember growing up, it was 4 of us. We have an older sister, 3 siblings. We had a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, jacked up old place. That's the environment I grew up in. And I remember even going to like a Carrabba's or, a Red Robin was like, wow, dude, this is a really nice restaurant. But it's all our paradigm of what we think we deserve and what we have experienced before. So when we have that mental thermostat and we start doing real well, unfortunately, subconsciously, we make decisions that'll bring us back to where we think we belong. And we start saying things like, oh, well, yeah, Jordan can do it, but it's because, he comes from that environment, or, oh, his father taught him, or, hey, you know what? He grew up in the good part of town. You know what? There's no excuses. We live in an era where we decide what we're going to do and take control of our daily actions so that we get the results that we truly want, but only if we're not going to self-sabotage by the bad image that we have of what we think we deserve. And that's why I think those books are just so incredible.
Absolutely. Mindset's everything. If you've got a good mindset, there's no telling how far you could go. And if you're letting everything sabotage your mindset and bring you down, you're just going to stay where you are or below that. So huge believer of that economic thermostat. And beyond that, just a thermostat for your whole life. If this is how you think your life looks, like you said, if you think you're a gangster and that you end up in jail all the time and bad things happen to you, bad things are going to happen to you. If you think you get sick, this is my personal belief. If you think you get sick all the time, you're always feeling bad, you're going to feel bad and get sick a lot. Your mind is very powerful. So
extremely powerful. And it's like, with those thoughts, we determine what we're capable and not capable of doing. So for me, it would be like, hey, work on that, work on your mindset, and surround yourself with good, positive people. And also make time to help others, because nobody succeeds alone. I always chuckle whenever I see, self-made man or self-made woman. Nobody succeeds alone. Nobody. Now, a large portion of the success is because of what you do, but it's not like you do it alone. So it's like being grateful for those things saying thanks to the people that guided you along the way. And the beautiful thing about it is that sometimes it's people that you'll never meet that pour into you just because of the material that they put online. And that's the beauty of the era that we live in. And, I was having a conversation with a friend the other day. It's like, oh, yeah, the rich are trying to keep us down. I was like, no, dude. What's happening is that you're so enthused watching the game and fighting with your friend who's the better quarterback, or saying, hey, who's better, LeBron and Jordan? Like, who cares? Like, is that going to change your life? I know for me, it's not going to change my life. I'm not even going to engage. Do I like a good game, whatever? Of course. But where are you investing your time? And I think guarding our time, guarding our mind is what's going to allow us to grow and experience life at a higher level.
Yeah, and if you grow and you're experiencing life at a higher level, typically people want to share that with other people and help other people get up too. I've never met somebody that's doing well that doesn't want to help other people get there too. So.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's why people come on a podcast, and that's why you're doing what you're doing, because you want to share. You know what? Hey, you know what? Some people don't have these mindsets or don't have these these insights onto the world of real estate. Let me share what I know, and that's the beauty of it. You know what? Some people will hear it, and it'll transform the way they think. And even if it's just a little thing that allows them to kind of pivot a bit and point them in the right direction, I think that's really rewarding as well for anybody that shares this kind of information.
Absolutely. All right, Victor. So how can people reach out to you if they just want to talk more about these things or learn more about the Austin real estate market or your team and what you guys do? What's the best way for people to reach you guys?
Well, VictorNino.com has all my info, but if it's like on social media, Realtor Nino on at Realtor Nino on Instagram, or just Victor Nino on Facebook. And another thing, I've started to grow my YouTube channel. I do market analysis of what's happening in the area. Like yesterday, I just did some research. Round Rock, year over year, 14% up in 12 months. City of Round Rock as a whole. So every week I put out 2 videos of different parts of town, and it's kind of like, hey, you know what? Let me gauge what's happening. So if people want to go ahead and find out more about what's happening locally, they can go ahead and do that kind of like hands off, and nobody's going to be calling you back or, making you feel like they're trying to sell you something. At the end of the day, I'll tell you this. I think people come to us when they know that they can get value from what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And, in this situation, I came across you because I had a listing. You ended up following up on it, and having a conversation with you made me feel very comfortable that you knew what you were doing and that I knew that your client would close. So you know what? There was a sea of offers, buddy. And you stand out by having a conversation with me. But at the same time, having a conversation where it was meaningful and you weren't just, kicking the can, taking my time. It was really good information that we exchanged. So I said, you know what? Let's go ahead and do it. So I'm really glad that I also came in contact with you, and then come to find out, Diego, Andres, so forth. So we know, a core of people that are mutual friends, which is super cool.
Absolutely. The community, you start to learn of people that are actually getting things done, no matter where you are. I've been in multiple different businesses, and when you get up there and find the people that are actually doing it and that are stand-up people and make things happen, it's not a lot. So get out there, meet people, add value to everybody, and it's going to be great for you.
Yes, sir.
All right, Victor, one last question, probably the most important question we'll ask today. What's your favorite restaurant in Austin?
Ooh, my favorite place to eat, not restaurant, would be a little taco truck on Riverside called Rositas al Pastor. And it's like off of Parker and Riverside. Those are the best tacos in town. So I love going there. And just a little side note, I remember when I met my wife, I said, hey, I'm going to take you to this cool little spot. It's al fresco, meaning it's outside. And we have a view of downtown. So that was pretty cool. They have like little benches outside, and you can sit, watch, the downtown skyline. So that's my favorite place to eat.
It's Rositas al Pastor?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yeah, there's a Starbucks and a CVS or a Walgreens right across the way.
All right, perfect. Well, I will put that in the show notes, so everybody make sure to stop by there. Victor, thank you so much for jumping on here today. I think we could probably go for hours, but we'll keep it at about an hour here. Anybody wants to reach out to Victor, it's Victor Nino on pretty much any social media platform. The Nino team's out there to help always. Check out his YouTube channel, and he would love to help there. Victor, thank you so much. You have a great day.
Awesome, Jordan. Have a good one. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.